Hello and welcome to my channel, Share It with Merit. I'm Merit. This is part one of a two-part video series on goal setting. In this first video, I'm going to talk about goal setting from a sort of 30,000 foot view, conceptualizations, definition, and why you set the goals and having a mindset for goal setting. In the second video, I'll talk more about the how-to, the nuts and bolts of actually setting a goal and things to do, not do in order to reach that goal. So digging in, the first thing I want to say is that when you're setting goals, it's important to ask, what is the why? Why am I setting this goal, right? And the why is often tied into your value system. And the reason I bring this up is because sometimes what happens is we set a goal for reasons that aren't necessarily in our value system. And I'll give a personal experience because I think it's going to help explain things easier. And this was a recent experience of mine. And it has to do with exercise, which I think is a pretty common goal for most people. Side note, this is not for, premier athletes. That's sports psychology. It's a whole other thing. This is, for those of us that just are, wanting to have some physical activity and maintain a healthy lifestyle and are not professional athletes. Okay. So what happened to me about, well, it's been almost a year, but this interesting sport called pickleball showed up in my life. Maybe you've heard of it. Maybe you've heard that it's just taken off. Well, I can tell you it's because it's a whole lot of fun. It's like think about it, it's like full body ping pong. It's just so fun, right? And I am not an athlete. I've never done a sport. I'm not a big fan of exercise. Give me low resistance or any day of the week and low, I don't do aerobics. You'll never catch me on a treadmill, but I will chase that silly ball around for hours and hours and hours. And so as I started playing, I decided this is fun and I want to do more of it. And for my health was kind of the reason, as much as it was because I was enjoying it. I'm like, well, this is good and it's healthy, right? So now I have been playing and all of a sudden I'm starting to think, oh, I'm getting the hang of this. And now all of a sudden it's like, well, I could take it to this level and I could do more and I could play as often as I want. And all of a sudden this goal of mine, which really is to have a healthy body, right? My why to do pickleball is, well, to have fun because it's really fun and to take care of my body, right? To do something physically active. And what happened is I had been going to yoga and my body was happy. That's a good thing for me. But I stopped going to yoga because it wasn't as much fun, right? And I just did a lot of pickleball. And slowly but surely, my lower back was starting to have a conversation, was trying to get my attention. Merit, hey, pay attention, this jumping around. It's not feeling so good. And I was like, nah, I'll be fine. Back schmack, I'm not listening, right? Not listening to my body and losing track of my why, right? Because my why is to not have lower back pain, essentially, right? And then it was 2 days ago, I played for a couple of hours and at the end of it, my back said, I'm going to win the argument. And it did. And let's just say, I will not be playing nearly as much pickleball. And I went to yoga today. And so what I'm trying to share with you is something I call set goals, not traps, right? And it's very easy to set a trap for yourself when you lose sight of your why and your value, right? Of why you're doing this. I used to do that with swimming too, and I can't swim, but I can not drown, but I like to be in the water because that's low resistance, right? Or excuse me, high resistance, low impact, my kind of thing, right? And I remember at the time, it's not about how many laps I do. It's not about how many pounds I lose. And so I set the goal of stay in the water for 30 minutes. Goal 1, goal 2, have fun, right? Because if this isn't fun, why am I doing it, right? And that would then serve my long-term goal of taking care of my body, right? And that's my process, but I think what's important and what I want to share in this video is to just think about it in terms of, again, why are you doing this? What's important to you? And then watch out for the traps, right? And traps often look like those little, Fitbit things. Fitbit, I mean, it's strapped on you. It's like a handcuff. Think about it as a handcuff. Now, if it helps you and serves you, then this isn't the best example for you. But what happens sometimes is, if my Fitbit was on pickleball and I was saying, I'm going to do X number of steps today, 20,000 or whatever it is, and I set that as my goal, and I get to 18,000 and my back starts screaming and I go, oh, but I said 20, I'm going to do 20,000. Well, now I've just trapped myself, right? And I've gotten away from my value and my why. I am not playing pickleball to hurt my back, right? But these what's the word I'm looking for? Setting that specific goal of this many laps, this many miles, this many wada. It's fine in moderation, and it's fine to sort of give you a guide, but just beware of it turning into a trap and actually, like in my case, actually harming me, right? Playing pickleball, 4 or 5 times a week for several hours, not good, just not good for me, not at my age anyway. It's a whole other conversation, right? But well, to that point, your why and your value and your goals do change over time. And maybe 20 years ago, I could have had a goal of playing 5 days a week for that much. But at this age, that's just not a realistic goal, and it's not serving me, and it's not ultimately what I want. As much fun as it is, it's not fun when your back hurts, right? So that's the gist of what I wanted to share with you in this video, is to set goals, not traps. That also applies to your calendar. That's another area where I see this a lot, and again, myself included, where just because you put stuff in your calendar, so that means you can take it right out. Okay. And the calendar is a reflection of your values. Think about it that way. Your calendar is a reflection of your priorities, which should be in line with your values. And that's another thing. Check your calendar out. Look at what's in your calendar. Do your priorities reflect your values? Right? And maybe this is a good chance for you to take a look at that and maybe reprioritize things. And sometimes it means taking things off. I think I remember, I think it was Ariana Huffington one time, she said this, and it's always stuck with me. She said, sometimes completing a task means dropping it. And I think that's a beautiful way to think about this, because, we get, I started doing paint by numbers. I'm pointing over here because I got these paint by numbers, right? And I've done a couple 3 now, and then I got one, and the paint's kind of gross and icky. And I'm actually kind of in the struggle of like, well, do I finish it because I bought it and it's here? And I have this thing like I should just finish it, but I really don't want to. It's not good quality, and I'm finding myself frustrated and not wanting to go do it. Now, that's a very simple example, but it's an example nonetheless. And I think I just decided right now that I'm just gonna not finish it. So glad I'm doing this video, and I hope it's helpful for you. So that's the idea. And your mindset is really what's going to drive, well, everything. Oh, one last thing I wanted to share too, which is that, your goals, this can all feel very cerebral, right? And goals are, this is what I'm going to do, and these are the steps I'm going to do to get there. But it also comes down to how you feel. And, I'm a psychotherapist, so I have to bring feelings into it. But if you think about it, just about everything you do in life, just about every choice you make ultimately comes down to either wanting to feel a certain way or not wanting to feel a certain way, right? And my example holds, right? I don't want to feel literal pain, right? But often it's an emotional feeling too. And my emotional feeling in playing pickleball was a high. I felt really good. And so I wanted to keep doing that, right? But then it came at a physical pain price, right? And so everything does kind of come back to how you feel, or excuse me, how you want to feel or how you don't want to feel. And that can be helpful to kind of, especially if you're struggling to decide on a goal, right? Because you may have two conflicting goals, pickleball or yoga again. And then coming back to that why. Okay, Merritt, well, why am I doing this? So that I am healthy physically, ultimately, right? The fun, should be there, but that's actually secondary, right? I mean, having fun is certainly a why for me, but being healthy physically trumps that, right? And maybe you're different, that's fine, but you want to take the time to evaluate that, and again, evaluate it as time goes on, as these things shift. I think in the video on the how-to, I'll talk about how they sometimes do shift on us, and I'll give some examples of that as well. So okay, so hopefully this was helpful. You can find more information on me at shareitwithmerit.com, and there's a download on that website called Your Recipe for Happiness, and there's a video that goes along with that too. So if you find this helpful, go to the website and download that information, and be happy.